ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਅੱਜ ਪੇਸ਼ ਹੋਈ ਹਾਂ ਸਿਮਰਨਜੀਤ ਦੀ ਸਪੀਕਿੰਗ ਲੈਣ ਲਈ। ਸੋ ਅੱਜ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟ ਸਿਮਰਨਜੀਤ ਦੀ ਸਪੀਕਿੰਗ ਕੰਡਕਟ ਕਰਵਾਈ ਸੀ। ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਕਮੀਆਂ ਸਨ, ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਸਟਰੈਂਥਸ ਵੀ ਸੀ ਉਹਦੀਆਂ। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟ ਆ ਕੇ ਪੁੱਛਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਮੈਮ ਸਾਡੇ 5.5 ਬੈਂਡਸ ਰਹਿ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ, ਸਾਡੇ 5 ਬੈਂਡਸ ਰਹਿ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ, ਤੇ ਆਪਾਂ 6 ਸਕੋਰ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਕਰੀਏ। ਸੋ ਅੱਜ ਆਪਾਂ ਡਿਸਕਸ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਸਿਮਰਨਜੀਤ ਦੀ ਸਪੀਕਿੰਗ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਕਿ ਉਹਦੀਆਂ ਕੁਝ ਕਮੀਆਂ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੈਂਡ ਉਹ 6.5 ਤੱਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਪਾਏ। ਹਾਂ, 5.5 ਤੋਂ 6 ਤੱਕ ਤਾਂ ਚਲੇ ਗਏ, ਲੇਕਿਨ 6.5 ਜਾਂ 7 ਤੱਕ ਕਿਉਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਣ ਪਾਏ। So let's move towards her speaking. What is your full name?
My full name is Simranjit Kaur.
How may I address you?
You may call me by my name Simran.
Okay, Simran, now I'm going to ask you some questions about getting lost. Have you ever lost your way?
Yes, recently I went to a new place and on the way I lost my way because the road was newly constructed.
How can you find your way when you are lost?
I mostly prefer to use online map as whenever I get lost on my way so that I can find my right way.
Have you ever helped someone who got lost?
Yes, last year when I went to Himachal, we went there so many times, so we remember the whole way, but we met a person who lost his way as he want to go to Ludhiana, but he went on a wrong highway, so we helped them to go back so that he can reach his destination.
Okay, let's talk about concentration. Is it difficult for you to stay concentrated?
Yes, it is very hard for me to concentrate on such things as sometimes there are kind of disturbance that distract me from my work.
What do you do to help you focus?
I mostly prefer to listen music whenever I have to focus on something, as music help us to concentrate on such things.
When do you need to be focused?
Mostly as a student, I mostly need to focus on my study as study is a very important part of every student.
Okay, let's talk about science. Do you like science?
Yes, of course, I like science as science is very full of knowledge.
Which science subject is interesting to you?
Chemistry is a very creative subject in science as I like to do a lot of experiment related to the chemistry in the science subject.
Okay, Simran, now we are moving to part 2. Now I'm giving you a cue card. Describe a story someone told you and you remember. You may take this. You have 1 minute to prepare and you have to speak for 2 minutes. Okay, Simran, now you may start.
So from my childhood, I have heard a lot of stories from my grandparents or from other people's, but I would like to talk about a story that I remember, that I still remember, and during my childhood, we are like 3 siblings, and we mostly used to fight all the time on small things, as we mostly went to the arguments on small things, and most of the time we do fight a lot, but at that time my grandma called us there in her room to tell us a story about not to fight and also to stay in a unity, as she told us a story about a farmer and his 4 sons. At that time she told us that the farmer has 4 sons who always used to fight on small things, but in the last days of farmer was very sick, and at that time he told his son about to bring a bunch of wood and told them to broke one stick, and at that time they all broke one stick easily, but when farmer told them to broke a whole bunch of woods, and the son faced a lot of difficulties to broke the bunch, as the farmer told them if you stay like a wood of bunch, no one would separate them, and separate them, and most of the people as tried to broke you into a small stick, single stick. People can easily broke you and would destroy your life, but if you stay like a bunch of woods, no one can broke you. And it was the story that I remember from my childhood. And at that time, we three siblings start living together and with a happy time.
Okay, let's move to the part 3. Now I'm going to ask you some follow-up questions. Has storytelling changed over a period of time?
Yes, nowadays people mostly prefer to tell stories by the help of internet, as in the past people tell stories from their memory or by reading books. But nowadays people used to prefer to read the stories from internet later to tell their children.
Do you think that generally most of the people are good at storytelling?
Yes, sometimes some people are very good at storytelling, as some people have talent to tell stories from their childhood, as they heard a lot of stories from their parents or from their grandparents.
What makes storytelling effective?
People mostly prefer to listen a story from a person who tell the story in a kind of effective way, in which he can change his voice or put kind of stuff in which they can feel the story is very interesting.
Is it important to tell stories?
Yes, it is very important to tell stories, as sometimes we can't able to tell the direct thing to someone, but by a story we can easily convey our message in the story.
Which way is better? Traditional storytelling or the use of technology in storytelling?
I personally feel that the traditional way of telling story is kind of very interesting, as people mostly prefer to tell stories from their experience. But nowadays people tell stories with the help of documentary things or a kind of animation thing that lead to the decreasing in the bonding between parents or children.
Okay, this is the end of the session. Thank you so much, Simran. So, as you have seen the live speaking of Simran, you have noticed a lot of mistakes that Simran has done. So, first of all, confidence की कोई कमी नहीं सी, confidence बहुत सी, but pauses लग रहे सन, बहुत सारे pauses लग रहे सन, lack of ideas सन, repeating बहुत हो रही सी, हर एक word repeat हो रहा सी, vocabulary was not up to the mark, कुछ टेंसेस भी गलत सन जो उन्होंने यूज किए, वर्ब फॉर्म्स भी बहुत सारे गलत लगाई गई, मोडाल्स, टेंसेस, एडजेक्टिव्स एंड prepositions, these were the mistakes. So these all mistakes are also marked by the final examiners. So students, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ बहुत ही ज़्यादा इन्हां चीज़ां वाल इन्हां mistakes वाल ध्यान देना पड़ेगा, अपने tenses, अपने prepositions, अपने pauses, अपने modals, tenses, हर एक चीज़ वाल बहुत ही ध्यान देना पैना है. So next time मैं एक और speaking नाल ਤੁਹਾਡੇ सामने present होवांगी. Thank you so much.